Hey, welcome. It's Brian here back here with random shit from a Gen Xer. Just wanted to go ahead and say howdy to everyone. Welcome in. Today we're going to go ahead and we're going to be talking about road trips. I love road trips. I have ever since I was a little kid. They're fun. They're so great. Um, and we all went on these road trips as kids, and some people liked them, some people didn't. But I went on enough of them all throughout the United States with mom and dad that I just fell in love with seeing the country and seeing everything that's out there. I even hate to admit it, but I enjoyed going through the hundreds of miles of corn in Illinois. If there's any more corn out there, let me know. But Illinois was pretty stacked at the time. It was the 70s, but I don't know. Iowa could have more. Kansas, I don't know. Haven't been through Kansas in a long time. But I digress. I do want to go ahead and get something out first. And this is totally off the subject. And we're going to have this from time to time. And I want to talk about relationships real quick. Today, I was reminded that just because it sounds funny in my head, not to actually go ahead and say it or send it in a text. Especially don't send it in a text because there's no inflection, there's no anything. It just reads what it is. And I thought I sent something funny to somebody that I care about very much, and it didn't land well. And I apologized for that, and I am sorry for that. You know, it is what it is. But I just wanted to go ahead and remind everybody that just because you think it's funny doesn't mean it's funny, and it can be taken wrongly. So remember that little piece of advice. All right, so back to road trips. Once again, as a little kid, I loved going on road trips with mom and dad. We would go everywhere. We've been down the West Coast, we've been across the country. Was talking about going through the cornfields of Illinois. One of the things that cracked me up about Illinois was it was endless corn, really. We were going from St. Louis to up to uh, Milwaukee, up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to see family. And it seems that when I was in Illinois, that there was just so much corn everywhere. And that was back in the day when we had the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it took forever to get there. And one of the things that I remember that was really funny looking back on it is that I would go ahead and I'd see these big corn silos or grain silos, and I could see them way off in the distance, and I'm like, "Oh, we're getting close. We're getting close to Chicago. Yeah, 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 yeah." And then I see on a sign about 5 miles later, Chicago, 172 miles still. Yay! But that's what it was like. You know, I was never the "Are we there yet?" kid. I was the "Let's see what's around." And I've got a lot of memories of Stuckies being all over the place, and they're miniature Buckies. Oh, I didn't even realize that rhymes. Stuckies and Buckies. Yeah, I think Bucky's just decided to go ahead and take the Stuckey's formula and then go ahead and just create it on a grand scale. But you still find a few Stuckeys around, but not a lot of them. And that's what I remember from childhood. I remember going to not SeaWorld, but some type of ocean aquarium that was right there in Florida. I want to say somewhere around St. Augustine. Um, but anyway, let's get back to the subject that I want to talk about today. And that's this great trip that I had. And started here in Dallas. went through Abilene, through Snyder, through all the back roads to get over to Roswell, New Mexico. Went there, so went to the museum. I could have lived without the museum. The coolest thing in Roswell, New Mexico, there's actually three things that are really cool in Roswell. And two of them aren't in Roswell. One of them is the Dunkin' Donuts. They have an alien holding up the Dunkin' Donuts sign, and that is really cool. Now, also, what they have when you're going out of town, we went a back way to get up to Santa Fe. So we were going on this divided highway. It was a pretty decent highway, but about a quarter, probably about 20 miles out. I can't remember for sure. 20 to 30 miles out of Roswell, going north. We were all of a sudden we come up on the side of the highway and there's two 40-foot big cutouts of cowboys, each one on each side of the road. And it was pretty cool. You never think that in the middle of nowhere that you're going to find something like that. And that was a really cool thing to go ahead and see. Um, to me, it was a highlight of Roswell, but that's just me. You've got other people that are really into the whole alien thing and the whole Roswell incident. And for that's something, that if you're interested in, that's something that you can really go to and enjoy. The museum itself is pretty good size and they let you walk through. There's a quite a bit of information in there, and if you're a conspiracy theorist about that, it's a lot of fun. Now, also on that trip, went up through uh, talking about the back roads, and went to Villanueva, which is a little, as what we say here in Texas, a little podunk town. Basically, they had a post office that was open till like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They had two churches, one Catholic one. They also had two little stores, and one of them you could go ahead and get burgers and stuff like that in as well. So it, it's a very small town. If they had more than 200 people in there, I'd be completely surprised. But it's kind of in a valley, tucked away. It's right next to the Pecos River. Yes, the same Pecos River that was made really famous by, oh my gosh, I can't even think of it. So I'm not even going to go ahead and bring it up. But it was the guy that rode the mountain lion. Uh, no idea of his name right now. So in the comments, if you can go ahead and help me with that. He had a snake as a lasso too. So that's that with that. But it was really cool. It was a cool little town. But then I went to the highlight of the first part of my trip, and that was Santa Fe. I absolutely adore Santa Fe. Santa Fe is one of the coolest cities that I've ever been to. Doesn't seem like they have any tall buildings or anything like that. It's a very small state capital. I think I'm not sure that it's the smallest, but it's got to be one of the smallest. But very beautiful, built around a plaza with all kinds of shops, beautiful churches, beautiful architecture everywhere. It's just a beautiful place to go and visit. Stayed overnight at this place. It was really kind of cool because it was built kind of like a log cabiny, but very Southwest in in style. It was like walking back in the late 80s, early 90s as far as the decorations. And that was a pretty cool thing to me as well. And it was just a nice clean place. It wasn't loud. Never had any problems with any of the people there. We were there for one night. One of the things that I really liked is that it was looking straight back over to the National Cemetery there in Santa Fe, where all the where fallen soldiers or retired or people that, that are able to be buried in a national cemetery are all there. And the way that it lines up and the way that it comes in at nighttime, I think I've got a picture and I'll add it to here along with the other ones. Um, Also, it was just a beautiful city all the way around. I I fell in love with it, and it's one of the places that I'd move to if I, you know, down a road. I wouldn't stay here forever. I'd like to, but we'll see. That's my thing in life now is we'll see. It's my motto. We'll see, and it is what it is. But love Dallas. So back to the trip. From there, we went up the back way down little two lane roads and went to a town by the name of Dolores, Colorado. One of the prettiest little towns that I've ever seen. They've got about 5 or 6 restaurants. Had an apartment complex there. I think they only have 1,000 people. I've never seen a town with 1,000 people have an apartment complex. And actually, I think it was two of them. One was an old motel hotel that they turned into an apartment complex, and one was like a 50s, 60s apartment to where it's one building. You go in, you have all your doors and everything on the inside. But it was a small one like that, maybe like four or five. It was pretty cool. But Dolores was a fun little town. After Dolores, the next morning, and stayed at an Airbnb there in Dolores, and I'll add a picture of the sunset. It was looking over this mountain, which I can't remember the name of off the top of my head, but it looks over this mountain to where you can go ahead and it almost looks like an Indian laying down, and it's pretty cool. Sorry, I had something in my throat. Oh, by the way, I drink Coke Zero. So Coca Cola, if you want to sponsor my podcast, you know what to do. Just reach out to me here in the statements or in the comments. So, anyways, from Dolores went over to Four Corners. Now, the idea of Four Corners is pretty cool. You have 4 states that go ahead and they meet like that in a quadrangle, 4 corners. You can stand in 4 states at one time: Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. So that's kind of pretty cool. But honestly, you can skip that. There's nothing around it. There's maybe a little town somewhat close, but basically it's out in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing around it. But what it did is get me closer to where I really wanted to go, and that was Monument Valley. And if you can see right up here, that's a still from the movie The Searchers with John Wayne near the end, to where he goes ahead and he's looking out over the Indian camp and seeing, if they're there. It's right near the end of the movie. It's I want to say that particular place is called John Ford Point. There's a couple of really neat places there. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The most beautiful place I think that I've ever seen. But I am kind of weird. I do love the desert. I think that the desert has a strange beauty to it. There's something about the brown and the gray of the sand and the rock. And in Arizona, Utah, you have that beautiful red rock. And the way that everything is set up, or not set up, that everything is evolved around there, from Mexican Hat, which is a little bit further away and I didn't get to see. But it was a really cool place to be. And you can go ahead, you pay the Navajo tribe a little bit of money. You can go ahead and drive through there, and you can see the mittens, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. You know, I can't really describe just how beautiful that it is. Um, Never seen anything like it in my entire life. And it makes you wonder how it was just formed like that. It's really, really something to behold. Um, there's a Forrest Gump Point. That's a really great. That's a really great place to stop and take pictures. The reason I call it Forrest Gump Point is because in the movie Forrest Gump, when he decides that he wants to go home now, that's exactly where he stopped. So, what they did is they just put up a sign that said Forrest Gump Point. Pretty cool. So, after there, drove down to the Grand Canyon. And that's a heck of a day if you think about it. Did Four Corners. Well, started out in Dolores, did Four Corners, went to Monument Valley, and then we ended up next getting there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon or so to maybe 3. Um, Ended up getting there to the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, beautiful as well. Now, we were there right before sunset, so we got to go ahead and see all the changing in the rocks and everything like that. And that was pretty cool as well. And it's really something to behold once again. But this I can understand. Looking at the Grand Canyon, I can go ahead and I can understand how that went ahead and happened a whole lot better than what I found how Monument Valley came around. And I should know more about Monument Valley. I love it because of all the old John Wayne and John Ford movies from there. And it's one of those places that I wanted to go ahead and see before I, go up to the big place in the sky. Well, hopefully I go up to the big place in the sky. So, anyways, and yes, if you see the light changing, it's because I have my TV on. And it's kind of not small, so bear with us, please. That's going to be a common thing in these videos because I do like to be entertained. Hopefully, you like to be entertained as well. But then what we did was we went to our hotel, which was motel. It was in Grand Canyon Junction, probably about 25 or 30 miles south of the Grand Canyon National Park itself. It's at a little junction. It was not the nicest place, and I'd never stay there again, to be honest with you. But it worked in a pinch. Because everything in Williams was sold out. Now, what we did after the Grand Canyon is we went to Williams. And in Williams, they have it really set up. It's one way on each side of the main street going in through town. And they have it set up with all the neon and everything like that. Um, you have all, because it's an old Route 66 town. And it's pretty cool. Seeing that they have everything is themed. Route 66, old diner type, lots of Route 66 stuff in the diner itself. So it's it's a pretty cool little spot that if you want to stop, you're not expecting it there. Now, also I had to go ahead and drive back up to Grand Canyon Junction. And because my sister had seen an elk by the side of the road back at the Grand Canyon, and she saw elk crossings all over the place, she was completely flipping out. Don't drive too fast. Don't go 55, which was the speed limit, or 65. Don't you dare do that. There might be an elk that comes running across the road. And I said, well, if it does, we're all dead anyways. Not really. Cars have airbags and crumple zones, everything like that. So, what's the worst that could have happened? It could have hit the car. Sorry. But anyway, it didn't. Because, I'm a professional driver. Yes, we'll get to my professional driver stories later on. But, anyways, and I drove that whole trip too. And I didn't mind it. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So, after staying the night in Grand Canyon Junction, went ahead and got up the next morning. My crazy sister goes to the store to go ahead and try to find my nephew a shirt that had two bears on it, and they were looking at the back of a car, and it said, "Oh, look, a menu," and because it had the little stick family on the back. So that's hilarious. If I could find a picture of that, I'll put one up. All right, so then the next morning, got up. I went to the little store, got some coffee. My sister went in, and she was looking, and she tried to get in and tried to get in, and she couldn't get in. She thought it was closed. And I'm like, I just went over to this side of the store, got in, got my coffee, came right back. Which is funny because we'll just say until 2018, I might have a cup of coffee once a month. Now, if I don't have my 2.5 to 3 cups a day, I am not the right person at all. Period. And I just lost my train of thought, but now I'm going to keep going. Now I remember what I was getting to. So, anyway, she calls me up. How did you get in? How did you get in? I said, I just walked in the door. It wasn't that hard, you know. But my sister, she's a little bit hard headed, and we all can be. So, anyway, and there I am back to that again. Anyway, went from Grand Canyon Junction down to Flagstaff, which Flagstaff throws you off because basically the rest of Arizona is cactus and dirt and gravel and everything like that. And then you get up there near Flagstaff and you have these big, huge, enormous trees. You have lots of green. You have snow. Not this trip, another trip I had snow. You It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. And the town is kind of quaint and neat. Went and shopped in their Whole Foods while I was there. But passed through there. Then the next stop, had to stop in Winslow, Arizona. If you're a Gen Xer, you know what's in Winslow, Arizona. I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. Such a fine sight to see. And no, I didn't sing it because I can't sing. But yes, they do have a statue, actually, couple, two, three statues, no, two of them, statues down there. One of Glenn Fry standing on the corner. They have an old flatbed Ford on that corner. They also have, and that's a real flatbed Ford, but they also have a mural with a flatbed Ford. So it's pretty darn cool. And of course, there's a couple of little shops right there. And it's a neat little diversion on your way back. After that, um, went through Albuquerque, which Albuquerque, I didn't like that trip. And I've been through Albuquerque two more times. Second time, I didn't really care for it. Third time, because I stayed in a different part of town, absolutely loved it. Albuquerque is kind of cool and not in a meth head kind of Breaking Bad kind of way. It's just kind of cool. Um, Went from there and probably another 150 miles out. I don't remember exactly, but stayed somewhere this on the New Mexico side. Um, the next night or that night. Just it was a Hampton Inn. It was okay. Nothing to write home about. They had free breakfast. What? Woohoo! Free breakfast. But anyways, did that. Got up the next morning. Got some gummies before I left the state. And yes, they do work. And but then left the state. Went back through Amarillo. I wanted terribly to go to the, I don't want to get the name wrong, the Big Texan Steakhouse that's up in Amarillo. I'm 6'4", 217 pounds now. Uh, about 10 years ago, no longer than that. I had a heart attack in 2009, so it was before 2009. No, it was after 2009. I was still up there. I was at like 310 pounds, 315 pounds. Cannot believe that I got that big. And thank God I don't have any pictures to prove it. Oh my God, that was a bad thing. I had a friend one time tell me that after I lost all the weight that I wasn't as funny that I used to be. I'm the same person. I don't know where they didn't get that. But anyways, that's what they said. So anyways, went ahead, tried to go to the Big Texan, but my sister by this time just wanted to get home because after Dallas, she had another 2.5 hours. She lives down in Central Texas in the Temple area. So she had another 2 hours to drive after we got back. But basically from Amarillo all the way to Dallas, I think that we said maybe 5 words. Just left it on Sirius XM for the rest of the time. And didn't say nothing, and I was okay with that until we got home and said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Do it again." But it was a great trip. Loved it. It's one of the best trips that I've ever been on in my entire life. I've done some more, but that's what that road trip was. And I want to thank y'all for being here and riding along with me. And y'all have a good evening. Bye from Brian. And I can't remember the name of my damn podcast. Something shit from a Gen Xer. Random shit from a Gen Xer. See, there goes my memory. Losing it. Too many things on my mind. Y'all have a good evening or whatever time of day it is. See you later.